Chair now
Might
recognizes
as
the
well yield.
Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Iowa, Mrs. Hinson, for further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Ferguson, I want to reiterate, I appreciate the agency's focus on accountability. Again, coming back into the focus here, you mentioned in your opening statement, the 2-year hiring spree that was, quote, taking the FTC to levels that they couldn't sustain. We have to right that ship. Many agencies saw increases over the last several years of more than 30%. That is unsustainable. So I appreciate the work you're doing to right-size the agency while still executing on the priorities at FTC. You talk about the contract spending reductions, $6 million. I'm sure that's just kind of scratching the surface, right? And in all of these hearings, I think there's one common theme. It's that we are peeling back the layers of this onion and finally getting a look at all of the waste, the duplicative nature of some of these agencies and their budgets. And we as appropriators need to do our job. So I appreciate you coming before us today to answer some of these questions. And under the previous FTC chair, obviously we saw this hiring spree happen. We saw Chair Khan aggressively work to regulate American businesses while claiming that she was protecting competition and consumers. So again, you talk about your refocus on away from rulemaking and back on protection. Can you share with the committee some of the lessons you really learned from the previous administration and the impacts of those regulatory burdens on small businesses, farmers, working families, like those you visited in rural Virginia recently?
Yeah, my experience over the course of my whole career is that even well-intentioned regulation tends to have unanticipated effects, and those effects are normally visited on the least powerful participants in an industry, which is normally small and medium-sized businesses. Big businesses can afford to lobby regulators and lawmakers to get the outcomes that they want in a way that small and medium-sized businesses cannot. And there is always a risk with regulation that regulation will be used to insulate monopolies or to create monopolies. But it's hard to sort of predict, when well-intentioned regulation is going to do that. I think that, the benefit of the way that the antitrust laws work is that the principal motivation is don't harm consumers and workers in the marketplace. Free markets are good, they work. Don't, within the free market structure, harm consumers to gain an advantage. And our job is to make sure that isn't happening. We're not central planners. We don't do industrial policy. Our job is to let the markets work by making sure that people within them aren't cheating by harming consumers to get a leg up. And I think that that sort of flexible general approach backed by rigorous investigation and law enforcement, rather than trying to pick winners and losers through regulation, is the way that we keep America competitive, it's the way we keep her dynamic, and it's the way that we achieve growth that benefits everyone, especially workers.
You mentioned earlier in this hearing that you had a mechanism for people to kind of self-report. And one of the frequent things that I try to talk to our small businesses about is give me a list, right? Give me a list of the regulations. Everybody says I need regulatory relief. Give me a list of what's holding you back. What is that mechanism? And obviously it's designed to make sure that we can deregulate as much as possible. And then can you, again, give me kind of a scope of what the next steps that you're taking in terms of presenting that information to the administration?
Yeah, there's a place on our website that you can go. You just fill out a form, identify what you think the regulation that is anti-competitive is, give a brief explanation of why, and then it shows up in our team's inbox and they're ready to go on it. I encourage Congress to do this too. Again, you all interact with your constituents in a close, personal way. You hear from your individual small businesses about what's holding them back. I've had similar conversations where I've had people come in and say, you really need to go after anti-competitive regulations, and I'll say, I agree, can you please give me the list? Yeah. And they'll go, oh, well, no, the list is very helpful.
Be specific, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I encourage Congress, if you all hear from your constituents, let us know what they are too. We've asked the agency heads, consistent with the president's executive order, to do the same thing. Once the request for information, which is the one the public can use on our website, and the agency responses are in, we will be going through them proposed reg by proposed reg and determining if they're anti-competitive, and if they are, either proposing shrinking them down to size so that they are protecting whatever they're supposed to protect without damaging competition, or recommending that they be deleted entirely because there's no way to save them while still promoting competition.
Is there a certain time frame that you're looking at, and I'm almost out of time, certain time frame you're looking at getting some of this feedback in so that you can, number one, work through the process, because I know it'll take some time to figure out what's actually anti-competitive versus what people just don't want to comply with, right? I mean, I think there's probably a balance to be, there's definitely a balance to be had there, but I think, is there any kind of timeline that you're looking at?
The RFI closes in in a couple months, and agency responses are due to us on a rolling basis. So once we have those in, we're building the team with the Department of Justice, who has a lot of resources that will work alongside us on this, just like the president ordered. I don't know exactly when the outcome or when our product will be made available, because at this point, I don't know how many regulations we're going to be asked to review, but we'll have an army of economists and lawyers ready to go to dig into these things, to find the ones that are anti-competitive and go back to OMB and the president and say, here's the list we recommend get rid
I'm
of.
sure Iowa business owners have some glaring examples they'll be happy to submit. So
I
thank
look
you
forward to
so
hearing
much.
about 'em.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Chairman
you.
Ferguson. I yield back.